Hi, yes. Yes, is this room service? Look, I know it's early in the morning, but could I order up some Wake Forest football content? Yes. Yes, room 220. Yes. Thank you. Thank you so much. Oh, hi guys. Hello friends, and welcome to the third episode of Wake Nation 21, the first fan-fueled YouTube channel dedicated to everything Wake Forest athletics. I am Josh Chilton, your humble and dedicated fan host, coming to you live from the My Flight Got Delayed studios here at the Embassy Suites at the Dallas Fort Worth Airport South, sponsored by American Airlines. And today we're going to talk about my favorite side of the ball, defense. That's right. Who wants to take a hit when you can be the one delivering them, right? But please do me a favor as I reveal my all time defensive team. This is a subjective activity. I am limited due to my age. I haven't watched 70 years of Wake football, but that's where I need your support and your commentary. If you disagree with certain players at certain positions or feel I've made a glaring omission, please let me know in the comments. Again, I want this to be a community experience where we, as a collective Demon Deacon Nation, remember, celebrate, and debate some of the greatest college football players to ever wear the old black and gold. And without further ado, let's jump into the list. And we're going to talk about the Wake Forest all time defense. Just a reminder of our criteria, our criterion for selection: talent, duration, awards, stats, and peak. And without any further ado, let's get into our first player. And we're going to start on the defensive line. So we're going to start kind of with the front seven. We're going to go with a 4-3 alignment, which was kind of the traditional college football alignment up until recent years, where most defensive fronts have five defensive backs. We're still going to go 4-3, and we're going to talk about this defense. But the first player to make the list is none other than Calvin Pace, defensive end, edge rusher Calvin Pace. He played from 99 to 2002. He was all ACC first team in 2002. He was an AP first team All American in 2002. And he started 33 games during his 4-year career at Wake Forest, basically a 3-year starter. And what qualifies Calvin Pace, besides his accolades, is that he's second all time in career sacks at Wake Forest with 29. Just a menace of an edge rusher, a really good, I remember watching Calvin, a really good edge setter in the run game. So he was getting after the quarterback. He was setting the edge in the run game. And he was a first round pick. I think he was like the 18th pick, and had a 13-year career in the NFL, playing for the Cardinals and the Jets. We had a good amount of, honorable mention candidates at the edge position. And I think that's something you're going to notice throughout this video is there's certain positions where I could find 3, 4, 5 honorable mentions who belong like in the conversation. And there's certain positions where I really struggled to find like even a second or third honorable mention. And so at the edge, we have a plethora of honorable mention candidates. Here, I'm just going to mention recent graduate, just last year graduate, Jasheen Davis, who was third all time, believe it or not, in career sacks at Wake Forest, and Duke Ejiofor. I know some of you guys remember him from the teens in the early Clausen era transition from Grobe to Clausen era, and he was also a really good defensive end, all ACC caliber end for us along the way. Our second edge, Michael McCrary. Michael McCrary had to be the two. There was no other two that were going to make the all-time defensive end ranking, in my humble opinion, in terms of edges that played at Wake Forest, defensive ends. And Michael McCrary is the all-time career sacks leader at Wake Forest with 30 career sacks, so just one more than Calvin Pace. But he set the single season sack record at Wake Forest with 16 sacks in 1992. He played from 89 to 92. He was all ACC second team in 92. He also holds the career single game sack record. That's hard to say. Single game sack record for a game against Maryland that he played in 92. He was just a freak athlete. 6'4", 250 pounds, 36-inch vertical, 4.59 40 time at the NFL Combine in 93. Just had scouts drooling over his potential because of his athleticism. He's in the Wake Forest Sports Hall of Fame, and he had a 10-year NFL career with 2 Pro Bowl selections. Played for the Seahawks, but most notably for the Ravens, and was a key member of one of the greatest defense I've ever watched at the NFL level in 2000 for the Ravens. One of the greatest defenses in NFL history for the Ravens. The other two honorable mention guys I wanted to talk about here is another fairly recent Demon Deacon graduate, Carlos Boogie Basham, who's signed to the Panthers right now, actually. He played from 16 to 20, was an all-ACC caliber player. And Kyle Wilbur, who spent some time with the Cowboys in the NFL, also made all-ACC teams. And so we had plenty of talent to draw from when it came to the defensive end / edge position. Now, where it kind of flips on that is at the interior of the defensive line. Now, we have had some talented players on the interior of our defensive line, but it's hard to find like a really deep list, right? But the first guy I'm going with is Fred Robbins. Played from 96 to 99. Just a physical monster. Like, we don't see a lot of guys this size in this day and age, this era of Wake Forest, play on our defensive line that are that big. 6'4", 325-pound monster. All ACC second team in 99. Started basically all 4 years. 44 out of 45 career games in 4 years at Wake Forest. That means from the time he got on campus, he was a starter on the defensive interior and remained that way. He had 15 sacks as an interior defensive lineman, which is quite a lot in 4 years for an interior defensive lineman. He's in the Wake Forest Sports Hall of Fame. He had a 12-year career in the NFL with the Vikings, the Giants, and the Rams. And my first honorable mention for the interior D-line is a guy who only played 1 year at Wake Forest. He is probably just as much of a Richmond Spider as he is a Wake Forest Demon Deacon, probably in his mind. But when we're talking about the criterion, one of the criterion is talent and peak. And if you look at Kobe Turner and what he did at Wake Forest in 2022, just I had not seen that type of talent on our defensive front. I had not seen an interior defensive lineman of that caliber play at Wake Forest in a really long time, perhaps since Fred Robbins in my early childhood. And so Kobe Turner had to make the honorable mention for me, even though he only played 1 year. It's like, well, this dude was, I mean, you're seeing it from the Rams right now. Um, Kobe Turner is one of the best defensive interiors in the NFL right now. And that talent just flashed and exploded for us as he was all ACC for us in 2022. Our next interior defensive lineman is the opposite of Fred Robbins and one of my favorite all-time players at Wake Forest. I know he's from Texas. I wonder if he is anywhere near Dallas, from anywhere near where I'm at right now in Dallas. But just the size profile compared to Fred Robbins, Nikita Whitlock, who played from 2010 to 2013. So we had Robbins at 6'4", 325. We had Nikita Whitlock at 5'10", 251 pounds. Told by most Power 5 at that time conferences that he was too small to play at this level. Told by a lot of Division I programs in general that he was too small to play the interior at the college football level. But Wake Forest saw something in Nikita Whitlock and were able to sign him. And thank goodness we were, right? A 4-year starter for the Demon Deacons, second team freshman All-American, so immediate impact player from the time he stepped on the field. All ACC honorable mention as a sophomore, second team All ACC as both a junior and a senior. Finished his career with, as a interior defensive lineman, 240 total tackles, which is ridiculous for 4 years from an interior lineman. They usually do not rack up tackles like a linebacker. 48 tackles for loss and 18 and a half sacks, again, as a interior defensive tackle. Just incredible career, incredible production. Honorable mention, again, the list behind Whitlock, Robbins, and Turner gets pretty thin. I chose Josh Banks, who played from 2013 to 2016. He was an All-ACC player for us. And so I chose Josh Banks as an honorable mention at the interior of the defensive line. So next, we're going to go to linebacker. And if we're going to talk about linebacker at Wake Forest, there's one man we got to start with. I know a lot of you modern cats are going to be like, well, you have to start with Aaron Curry, right? Like, he's number one, right? No, the number one linebacker to ever play for Wake Forest is none other than Ed Stetz, who is my hero because I played high school football at about 5'11", 185, 190 pounds, soaking wet. And Ed Stetz played at 5'11", 200 pounds at Wake Forest from 1969 to 1971. We're just going to go through the numbers, and it's just going to blow your mind. He's first all-time in tackles at Wake Forest with 460 tackles in 3 seasons. So it's not like he played 4 seasons and averaged around 100 tackles a year, each year. No, the man played 3 seasons at Wake Forest because back then they had a junior varsity and varsity team. But look at some of his single season tackle numbers. Just ridiculous. 191 tackles in 1970, which is second most all time, obviously, for a single season at Wake Forest. He made that record, then broke that record the very next year in 1971 with 203 tackles, over 200 tackles in a single season in 1971, first all time at Wake Forest. He has the most tackles in a game in Wake Forest history with 29 tackles in a single game. He was all ACC first team in 1970 and 1971. He's a member of the Wake Forest Sports Hall of Fame. An honorable mention. It was hard to leave off none other than John Abadi, who, besides having one of the most heartwarming and tough life experiences happen during his senior season at Wake, also was an all ACC NFL caliber prospect at Wake Forest who played from 2004 to 2006, including on the ACC championship team from 2006. So honorable mention, John Abadi, but Ed Stetz, perhaps the greatest linebacker in Wake Forest history. And if Ed Stetz is not the greatest linebacker in Wake Forest history, we're going to come back to the modern era and we're going to talk about Mr. Aaron Curry, because Aaron Curry, who played from 05 to 08, was a 4-year starter at linebacker for Wake Forest, freshman All-American, All ACC freshman team in 2005, starter on the ACC championship team in 2006 as a sophomore, second team All ACC, and second team All American as a junior in 2007. Butkus Award winner, meaning the best linebacker in college football his senior season in 2008. All American first team, All ACC first team. Just the sheer amount of awards that Aaron Curry racked up during his time at Wake Forest, along with his production, along with his versatility, and all the things he could do at the linebacker position, lands him on our all-time team. Obviously, he was the 4th overall pick in the 2009 NFL draft. For whatever reason, and there's certain reasons that it just doesn't work out for some guys. He had a 5-year career with the Seahawks and Raiders. His professional career did not, he would be labeled a bust in terms of like where he was drafted and what his NFL career looked like. But that's not what we're here to talk about today. What we're here to talk about today is what he did at Wake Forest. And what he did at Wake Forest, he did things that had never been done by a defensive player at Wake Forest. So he has to be on this list. It's between him and Ed Stetz. Pick your poison in terms of the greatest linebacker to ever play at Wake. My honorable mention, number 2 for linebackers, is Markel Lee, a very underrated and perhaps forgotten stud linebacker for us back in 2013 to 2016. Markel Lee was an All-ACC first-team player his senior year. And so Markel Lee was a very good player for us, played a lot of years as a starter for us. And so he's definitely worthy of an honorable mention. Linebacker number 3 has to be Carlos Bradley. And he played from 1978 to 1980, second all-time in tackles in Wake Forest history with another ridiculous number, 431 tackles throughout his career. Led Wake Forest in tackles for 3 straight seasons. Again, he's racking up these type numbers in only 3 years instead of 4. 157 tackles in 1979, 142 tackles in 1980, All ACC first team in 1980. He's in the Wake Forest Sports Hall of Fame. He had a 6-year NFL career with the Chargers and the Eagles. And an interesting fact is that Carlos Bradley was once the World Natural Powerlifting Federation record holder for power curling 210 pounds. I guess that means he did with one arm, he power curled 210 pounds. I think that's what that means. That is not on the record. That is just a guess. And honorable mention, I really struggled beyond these two guys. I thought about Justin Stranad. I thought about a couple other guys. I probably should have just thrown Justin Stranad in there as an honorable mention linebacker. But we got some good honorable mentions. We got 3 linebackers that made the team, so I didn't feel too bad not putting another honorable mention in there. This is where I need your help, guys. If you can think of a glaring omission at linebacker who I've failed to mention and at least deserves some honorable mention, attention, throw him in there. Maybe this year Dylan Hazen will have the type of season where we can throw him in there, but we'll see. And for now, we're just going to leave that blank and see what the future holds at the linebacker position for us. All right, we're getting now to the defensive secondary. And for free safety, it's Jesse Bates. At free safety, it is Jesse Bates. And I know he only played 2 years for us. He played a redshirt freshman and a redshirt sophomore year for us, and then was off to the NFL, where he's been a 2-time Pro Bowler, an all-pro player at the NFL level. But the reason Jesse Bates makes this list, even lacking duration, he lacks a lot of the awards that a lot of guys might have at Wake Forest. I'm putting Jesse Bates up there because of his talent, because of his peak. At his peak, which was a 2-year peak, I mean, from the time he stepped on the field as a redshirt freshman, he is the most talented safety I've ever seen play at Wake Forest. And it's not close. It's not close. Anyone else I could think of watching, Malik Mustafa, great player, is going to be a starter for the 49ers this year. There's some other guys we could talk about in terms of great safeties, Gaddis from back in the day. But Jesse Bates was just different. Like, you saw this man come up making these solo tackles in open space against NFL caliber, future NFL stud running backs like Dalvin Cook. I remember a game against Florida State where Jesse Bates was just like tackling Dalvin Cook. And I was just like, how is he doing this all by himself? Like, if not for that tackle, then like it's off to the races here. And so we just got to remember this man was one of the most talented athletes to ever play at Wake Forest, perhaps under recruited by some other programs because he did play different sports. But I'll stop my my crush on Jesse Bates long enough to just throw in some of his recognition and awards. Consensus first-team freshman All-American in 2016, runner-up behind for ACC Rookie of the Year, only behind the best defensive tackle in the NFL right now, Dexter Lawrence, in 2016. He tied for the ACC lead in solo tackles his freshman year. Like I said, open space, the most difficult, degree of difficulty tackles imaginable in football. Jesse was making those every time, and it was crazy. He's third in Wake Forest history for interception return yards. So, he had a 100-yard interception return. I forget who it was against. I think it might have been NC State his freshman year, but he had a 100-yard interception return. And even with that, he had some other interception return yards. And so so far he's had a 7-year NFL career with the Bengals and now with the Falcons, 2-time Pro Bowler, all-pro selection. And our first honorable mention is the guy who was really hard to leave off the list because of what he achieved at Wake Forest, and that's George Coghill. I didn't watch George Coghill play, but I know just looking at his accolades at the stat books, George Coghill was a hell of a safety to play in the late 80s and early 90s for Wake Forest football. All right, who's our next safety? I'm calling him just a safety. You could call him a strong safety. I'll take that. That's probably, if we were fielding these 11 guys, that's probably where he would land. But Bill Armstrong has to be on the list of safeties all time for Wake Forest. Consensus. He was the first consensus All-American at Wake Forest in 1976. He was third team All-American in 1975, first team All-American in 75 and 76. So think about that. He was 2 years in a row a first team All-American player. Also, obviously, first team All-ACC in those 2 years as well. As a safety, he is fourth all time in career tackles at Wake Forest. He had 177 tackles in 1976 as a safety. This man was a tackling machine at the safety position. So, you might want to call him a hybrid. I'm sure NFL coaches today would have him playing this versatile hybrid safety slash linebacker, depending on the play type guy. But we're going to call him a safety, a strong safety. Maybe we can call him that. But just as the safety, to me, it's Jesse Bates, it's Bill Armstrong, and those who are the most talented. And Bill Armstrong is obviously the most accomplished safeties in Wake Forest history. Again, honorable mentions. I talked about Josh Gaddis, who played from 03 to 06, was an All-ACC player for us, part of the ACC championship team, and Malik Mustafa, who just on talent alone, just watching him play was different. He was a guy who just played, despite not being that big for a safety, maybe 5'11", 200 pounds, just played with a physicality and, an aggressive type player that you don't often see. And so Malik Mustafa, Josh Gaddis, honorable mention, but I salute Bill Armstrong. He has my mother's maiden name, Armstrong. I salute Bill Armstrong for what he did at Wake Forest. He is obviously an all-time Demon Deacon, and it's not close. Corner number 1. Yes, of course. It is Mr. Alphonso Smith. Alphonso Smith, what a joyful player in Wake Forest history to watch. First team freshman All-American in 2005. Key leader, key player for the 2006 ACC championship defense, his sophomore year. All-ACC first team in both his junior and senior years. He had a school record for single season interceptions with 8 interceptions in 2007. He almost broke his own record from 07 and 08 when he had 7 interceptions. All of this adds up to make him Wake Forest's all-time leader in interceptions. He's in the Wake Forest Sports Hall of Fame, one of the undisputedly greatest players to ever play for Wake Forest. And he had a 4-year NFL career with the Broncos and the Lions. And for our honorable mention for cornerback number 1, it's Ronnie Burgess, who played from 81 to 84, was a first-team All-ACC type player, a very productive player in terms of interceptions and what he did at the cornerback position, but couldn't put him ahead of, in my opinion, the GOAT corner at Wake Forest and Wake Forest history, Alphonso Smith. So who's our corner number 2? Our corner number 2 is Mr. AJ Green, who played from 85 to 88. AJ Green was a hell of a corner for the Demon Deacons. All-ACC first team 2 years in a row, just like Alphonso Smith. So in 87 and 88, he was all ACC first team. He's tied for second all time in interceptions at Wake Forest. He's tied for second most interceptions in a single season with Alphonso Smith for having 7 interceptions in 1987. He has the single game record for interceptions in a single game with 4 interceptions in one game against Georgia Tech in 1987. He's in the Wake Forest Sports Hall of Fame. And our honorable mention for the cornerback position is a former NFL first round pick, stud, multi year starter, and high level player for us, Mr. Kevin Johnson, who played from 2011 to 2014. And since we're doing defense, I forgot we had to add at least one guy. Defensive special teams, we had to add at least one guy to the GOAT list, right? How do we leave off of Nick Skiba from just talking about him? Yeah, I had to find a way to talk about him. I wasn't going to do the all-time best like punter or kickoff returner or punt returner or long snapper or holder, but I was going to throw in the greatest kicker of all time at Wake Forest, and it's not close. It's Mr. Nick Skiba. I had a joyful time watching Nick Skiba play at Wake Forest. He played from 2018 to 2021. All 4 years of his career, he was our kicker. He's the single season record holder for the most field goals made in a season at Wake Forest in 2019. He also has the highest field goal percentage in Wake Forest history. 89.9% of his field goals he made in his career at Wake Forest. He was a third-team All-American and a first-team All-ACC as a sophomore in 2019. Again, he was All-ACC first team in his senior season in 2021. And if we had to throw an honorable mention in there, we're going to go with Mr. Sam Swank, who was part of the championship team in 06. Sam Swank ranks right up there in terms of all-time field goals made, in terms of, completion percentage, not completion percentage, field goals made percentage. He's right up there, a couple spots behind Mr. Skiba. But we got to talk Nick Skiba when we're talking the greatest kicker in Wake Forest history. So we've got that going for us. And that's going to lay out our defense here. So I'm just going to go ahead and go through the defense. You can see how I've chosen to align them up, but you could choose to align them up any way that you'd like. But I'm going starting with the front seven. I'm going McCrary at one of our defensive end / edge positions. I'm going with Nikita Whitlock right beside McCrary just to have some of the most athleticism and freakish talent you could ever see between those two on one side of the ball. I'm going Fred Robbins to be our space eater, our gap eater, our big just like monster in the middle up front. And then I'm going Calvin Pace to rack up sacks and set the run edge at the right end position. Linebackers going across from left to right. We got Mr. Ed Stetz, my spirit animal, Ed Stetz. We've got Aaron Curry. I'm putting him at the middle linebacker position. And then we just have a freak athlete who can run sideline to sideline. We've got Mr. Carlos Bradley. And then in the defensive backfield, Alphonso Smith, our shutdown corner. We can put him on an island. We're not worried about him. Another tackling machine at strong safety. So we got the two greatest tacklers in Wake Forest history. Whatever the strong side is, depending on the offensive formation, I want Ed Stetz and I want Bill Armstrong to be behind him because those two are just going to be tackling machines. And then at the other more free safety like position, I have a middle field player like Jesse Bates who can cover the deep thirds, who can cover the deep middle, can come up and make up for anybody else's mistake in terms of cleaning up the running gaps, making plays in open space. I've got Jesse Bates. And then as our backside corner number 2, I've got AJ Green over here on the backside, just another shutdown corner. I would put this Wake all-time defense up against a lot of all-time defenses, actually. And then over on the sideline, warming up in case they need him, is the all-time kicker, Nick Skiba for Wake Forest. Thank you guys so much, all of you who've watched this video up to this point. If you enjoy this content, if you want to see me continue doing this content, because my schedule is about to get a lot busier, and just I'm going to have less time, but I want to devote a lot of time to this, please subscribe. Please hit that like button. Those are the two things you can do to help me the most. But you can also help me by throwing me a tip. You see my Cash App name right here, $ capital J Joshua, capital C Chilton 12. If you want to throw me a Cash App tip, just to keep me going here, keep me motivated, keep me on the path for Wake Nation 21, you're more than welcome to do that. But I have a feeling my passion for this is going to be so unstoppable that I'm going to be here for a long time because I enjoy doing it so much so that I did it from a hotel room stuck in the middle of the country when my flight got delayed. But I'm going to go now. I got to go get to the airport. I appreciate everyone who's watched this. Go Deeks. Let's build this thing in the dark, Coach Dickert. I'm excited for the season. I don't care what any prognosticators or pessimists want to say about what your resume is, or any things that Wake Forest can't do, or whatever our shortcomings might be or our challenges might be. I think we can be what we've been and more, which is the greatest college football team of this century. We're going to continue that legacy, and we're going to keep building on that legacy. And it's going to be important for fans like you and me to stay engaged during that mission. Thank you guys again for watching. I'm out. Go Deeks. Let's do it.